All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. So we're in Module 7 here, and today we're kind of building on top of our what we've done so far, and we've been given the data there in the last module, kind of showing where Eagle Aviation is lacking, and we need to improve on what we're lacking and how are we going to do that. So with that, it kind of bleeds into this Module 7 presentation that I'm about to give with how we do that here at Eagle Aviations. So starting off here is our communication plan. So obviously we need to be able to communicate our plan to improve those areas of Eagle Aviation. So here's just kind of a baseline and kind of a baseline showing who we're trying to communicate with and how we're going to do it. So the purpose of this communication plan is to inform our EA stakeholders of our innovation plan and improving Eagle Aviation. Our goals and objectives are to improve employee relations, better our processes, and restore relationships with our stakeholders. So here's our stakeholder information. So our two main, real big ones are our employees and our investors and our suppliers. So the frequency with how we're going to communicate, starting with our employees, is will be as needed. The format and the channels, the way we're going to do that will be in person through email, and how we do those is through training and development. And then we move on to our investors and suppliers. Um, these are kind of the people that we'll communicate with more on a quarterly basis, and we can adjust that as needed as we move on. If we need to do more communication because it's not getting our priorities across, or if we're doing it too much, we can obviously um, adapt that frequency of communication. And how that will be done as well will be in person and through email. And that's just illustrating our way forward, showing our investors and our suppliers what our plans on moving forward and how that affects them. And then for team communication, so the big thing here, especially with our employees, we're going to try to tackle that through training. That'll be done in person, and the frequency with that will be as weekly or as needed. Um, just we'll have to gauge that as we move and see. And the goal of that is to improve our employee relations. The owner of that will be the project managers, and our audience obviously is our employees. And then moving on with our investors and suppliers. So those two will be met through meetings. So board meetings, obviously, when we sit down with the higher leadership and stuff like that, and lay out our plan and kind of illustrate to them what we need from them in order to increase Eagle Aviation. That type of frequency will be conducted quarterly, and that will help us establish new and better processes. The owner of that will obviously still be our project managers, and that's our audience is obviously our employees on top of our investors and suppliers. And then finally, how we enhance our stakeholder relationship. The major type of this will be through communication. Um, Email is primarily the main method that we want to go through, but we will also explore other avenues if need be, especially with how technology is advancing nowadays and getting the information out to our customers, our employers, our investors, all our stakeholders, how we get this information out to them. Once again, frequency, we're aiming to do that quarterly, and that can be adjusted as we move on and see if we need to increase that or decrease that. And the goal is to enhance our stakeholder relationship. That will be on the owner. The owner will be the CEO. That's more up their alley to kind of give a temperature of Eagle Aviations and how we're doing and what we need to do moving forward. So getting into that, so we have our identified Eagle Aviation internal stakeholders. Here we have, and these are actually a kind of what's I would say racked them, stacked from probably the most important to that we need to really grasp a hold of and get our information to these people first. And that first obviously is our customers, because without our customers we don't have Eagle Aviation. Next will be our employees, because our employees, they put in the work. They're the ones who were identified that need some intervention, especially with some of the data that we got back from the earlier simulation. Next is our shareholders and investors, because obviously they're what feed Eagle Aviations and keep us going. Same with our suppliers; they're next, and then we'll last kind of a stakeholder there is our management and our executives at the top. They are still important, but when it comes in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of fifth on the chart, ahead of or behind the other people in front. So here's our data that we were given in our simulation. This here just kind of gives a snapshot of overall. We're looking at the people, process, finances, and stakeholders. Um, the three areas that I identified for Eagle Aviation that needs to be worked on are people, our process, and stakeholders. Financial wise, for now we're still good. As you can see there, just kind of a bluff right there. Our revenue is 12 million, only costing 7.7 million, which means we're still green in the profit, making 4.23 million. So I think we're good there. As long as we stay on top of the other three, the finances kind of will fall in step with that. Overall, when it comes to our goals, Eagle Aviation has managed to accomplish 75% of them, so we're good there. But there's always room for improvement. The big thing, like it is there, the company climate. So all these numbers, the finances, the goals look good, but if we don't address the people, process, and stakeholder issues, those are soon to plummet. So we need to get ahead of that. And then the rest of this presentation is kind of how we lay out the plan to do that. So first here, we're going to, with our employees and stuff like that, as you can see here, it's just more of a breakdown with the numbers. The big thing here that was identified was the employee turnover, the job satisfaction, and then the autonomy. So our framing questions for employee involvement. Currently, we retain 85% of employees. How do we build on improving this? And the ways that I identified how we do that is with career development, kind of look at our flexible work arrangements, see how we can better the work-life balance for our employees, and a recognition program for our employees to involve health and wellness. I know Google is a big proponent of really giving back to their employees. They kind of laid a foundation and kind of the way forward for everybody. So looking at how they do that with the health and wellness programs and kind of using that towards our employees, I think will be very beneficial. 40% of Eagle Aviation employees show satisfaction in their job. In what ways can job satisfaction be improved? The plan for doing this is establish a clear path towards advancement for our employees. Get employees more involved with processes, because that was one of the complaints that we had, that they felt when it comes to autonomy that they felt like they weren't involved with decisions and things like that. So getting the employees more involved will also add to our buy-in. And then laying clear expectations for our employees. And if there's any gray areas or employees are confused of where their left and right boundaries are, these expectations will kind of lay out the foundation of where kind of they fall step in line with things. And then this part two, just of the employee improvement. Half of Eagle Aviation workforce is in favor of implementing more work autonomy. How do we support this? So how we can do that is expectation through clear guidance. So building on that last point there, empowering decision making with our employees, and developing autonomous teams. That way that these employees are having more buy-in with the decision making that Eagle Aviation is doing. All right, moving on next to our processes here. You can see there the numbers look decent, but kind of peeling that back. The 8 days, which is 5% faster than the average in the market, is good and all, but we need to make sure we're staying on top of that so we don't fall behind. Productivity, they're showing at 55 is good, but with something that we always improve on. Communication is always a big thing. As we can see right there, we kind of have a neutral feeling amongst Eagle Aviation employees, which is obviously neutral, but we need to improve that. So how do we do that? So currently EA is ahead of decision-making time, leading the industry with an average of 8-day turnaround on decisions, 5% faster on average. How do we continue to stay ahead? Things that we can implement is agile project management, and that's creating or incremental teams and things like that, smaller teams that can attack these projects that we have faster, quicker, and make them, and just keep building on that turnaround, the 8-day turnaround, and maybe improve those numbers. Customer collaboration. Collaborating with our customers and stakeholders, prioritizing that, ensuring that what we're delivering meets the expectations of our customers. And then cross-functional teams, just getting teams that don't normally work together to work together. That helps build adaptability, collaboration, and reduces dependency on certain other teams. And it kind of just unblurs the lines between different departments and opens up the communications between everybody. All right, framing question number 2 for improving processes. Currently operating at a 55 productivity rate. How can we increase our rates and improve productivity for the workforce? The biggest thing here is we need to get with the times and technology integration. So looking out there, seeing what our competitors are using for technology, kind of harnessing that and grabbing onto that kind of stuff to help Eagle Aviation out as well. Crew resource management, just better managing our resources and our pilots and our operations sections and our just employees at all. How can we really look at those and dissect that, and how do we improve that? So the CRM is a good way to be doing that. Digital platform for operations, just getting more into the digital world, kind of falls step in line with that technology integration, just adapting to technology and using it to benefit us. And then moving on with investing in sustainable practices, because that's a big thing right now. We hear a lot about going green, companies going green. How can we, get ahead of that and take advantage of that? Is that adapting new airframes? Is that just looking at different processes to leave a green footstep, and just exploring those avenues? And then for part 3 right here, communication among Eagle Aviation employees is viewed as a neutral light. What can we do to increase and deliver better, effective communication? Just the big 4 things I found that we could start using at Eagle Aviation is unified communication systems. Get on almost a singular type of communication system that everyone can use, and that could be from just operational standpoints, the day-to-day operations, customer service kind of mindset, stuff like that, but just finding a system that works for us that everyone can use and agree on, and just sticking with that system. Digital communication tools, once again, it's just kind of stepping up and looking into those technological advancements and see what other of our competition is using, and see what's working for them, and see if we can adapt that and use it for Eagle Aviation. Incorporating communication skills into training, so this kind of then feeds back into helping our employees out. So when we're doing those developmental things for our employees, incorporating communication and tools and things like that into that training, just to better communicate for employees overall. And encourage two-way communications, open communication lines. So we need to look and see where the communication is breaking down, and look into ways we can open that communication up. If that's the stigma of just employees and crossing the line with upper management and things like that, we need to address that and open those lines of communication, allow people's voices be heard and things like that, and just open up all communication lines. And then finally, moving on to the last area, this is more of our investors and our customers as well, and how do we improve this aspect of Eagle Aviation? So the framing question for this one, for restoring our stakeholder relationship: on average, Eagle Aviation returns 6% of its customers. How do we build and increase these numbers? So our retention rate amongst our returning customers is 6%. It looks low, but actually that's fairly decent for the industry. But how can we build on that, right? So some things that Eagle Aviation can look into exploring are personalization of services, just making the experience of air travel through Eagle Aviation more personal to the customer. Frequent flyer programs, exclusive offers, and loyalty programs. Our competition is doing this, and it's something that we can use as well. And it kind of gives back to the customer, and it kind of incentivizes them to come back and use Eagle Aviation over and over again. And then digital and post engagement. So we're looking for that feedback. What are we missing? Can we get that information from our customers? So just constantly engaging prior customers and get their feedback on what they liked and what they didn't like, and using that information and data and building on it to make Eagle Aviation better. And then looking into our partnerships and alliances. So the strategic partnerships with other companies, stuff like that. Just building on top of that, and building, say, like a loyalty program with a competitor of ours, and just bridging those gaps between our partners and alliances, and just building a better segue for our customers. And then Eagle Aviation needs help with suppliers, investors, relationship. How can we improve and build on these relationships? So the way we do this is collaborating and planning and forecasting ahead of time. Transparent contracting with these suppliers. Suppliers perform evaluations to let our suppliers know how they are helping us, and in ways maybe they're hindering us, and how can we improve that. And then building into our agreements to long-term partnerships. That way, we don't have to constantly go out and seek other new partnerships. We just can build a relationship with a set partner and build on top of that.